Well, people are out there questioning what is going on with Microsoft and talking about Machine Game's latest financial statements, which shows them in a profit, by the way. So it's not doing too bad, and the game did actually profit, even if it was by just under $3 million, it still profited, right? But apparently this is bad and not good enough, and they're the next company to be shut down, despite the fact that, as you can see here, according to Machine Game's financial statements in 2024, studio is excited about new projects for future development. Studio is optimistic about the future for both the company and the industry as a whole. Now, obviously, people are going to take this the wrong way, but this isn't really the main topic that I want to talk about, and I'm surprised more people aren't talking about this, because when I tried to challenge this, I was met with a rather weird response, and it threw me off, honestly, on just how much people actually defend these companies. And I'm actually referring to this over here, right? Because Ubisoft has come out and said that microtransactions makes the player experience more fun. And I actually challenged this and said no. But let's just read what they actually said, right? Because I think it's important to understand the context of what's going on and what's being said. So let's just make this a bit bigger, because context is everything at the end of the day. I'm not one to put words in the mouth of others, so here's the statement directly from Ubisoft's financial report. The adoption of microtransaction and engagement policies that respect the player experience and are sustainable in the long term. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. Now, keep that last bit in mind, right? Because this is really important for what's about to happen, or what's about to be said. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more money. Continuing, and this is where it gets weird, they make the boldest of claims. Our monetization offer within premium games makes the player experience more fun, right, by allowing them to personalize their avatars or progress more quickly. However, this is always optional. Now remember what they just said, right? At Ubisoft, as a golden rule, you don't have to enjoy the game. You can enjoy the full game without spending more. But they are making it more fun by allowing you to progress quickly. Now, I made a tweet saying, well, here's an idea, right? Instead of padding your game out and making that XP bar from 500 XP to next level to 10,000 XP to next level, how about you don't do that 10,000 XP to next level, so I don't have to buy a booster to have said fun that you're talking about. Of course, I had the Ubisoft Defense Force come straight after me and start saying, well, they're not exactly forcing you to do it, they're not grabbing your wallet. But no, what they're doing is they're creating a problem and then giving you a financial incentive to resolve that problem. When realistically, they don't need to be a problem. They can just not have the problem and just have skins and mounts and whatever the hell they want. I've got no problem with them selling skins. I've got no problem with them selling mounts, right? I think that's all fair play. If you want your character to look like Tom and Jerry, go to town. Let them do it, right? If you want your character to look like a Gundam in Assassin's Creed Shadows, go for it. If you want it to look like Kentucky's Colonel, go for it. I've got no problem. Pay the money, make it happen. But when you start introducing boosters into the game, you're not now doing it in a way where this is to make the game more enjoyable for the end user. No, you're looking at it in this angle, right? Right. How can we look at it? We're looking at this game right now. I need people to brainstorm around this table. And this is, I'm assuming, how the meeting goes, right? How can we put roadblocks in front of people to incentivize them to go and pay money? Keeping in mind, at Ubisoft, we pride ourselves as the golden rule when developing premium games, which is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. And then someone at the back said, sir, but isn't that then going against what you're saying? How so, young Timmy? How is that going against what I said? Well, if you're making the barrier to get from point A to B longer for those that don't want to pay, with the deliberate incentive to make them spend money to do something that they should already be able to do in the game by just getting XP, that's not really giving them more fun. You're basically ruining their fun if they're not spending. And so Timmy was later fired from his job for having a creative response. And so everyone else in the room said, you know what, more boosters. And then everyone got a raise. And that's what Ubisoft is wanting at the moment. See, I actually enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows. Still haven't finished it, mind you. No surprise to anyone. But I'm still playing through it because the game is insanely bloated. And one of the things I really despise about Ubisoft games is the amount of bloat. It literally bores me to death half the time, and then I come back to it later. Maybe like 6 months to a year later, because the bloat is just too much. And a lot of side quests actually have hidden things that benefit you as a player going forward, so you kind of can't really ignore it either. Rather than it being like a semi-linear path, they don't do that, and I wish that they would. That's really my biggest critique when it comes to Ubisoft games. But I did enjoy Shadows. I even enjoyed Outlaws, even before the changes that came into the stealth mode. I was actually one of the people that praised it because I enjoyed it. So it's not a case where I don't like Ubisoft games. Mirage is a great game. I really liked it, you know, and the new Prince of Persia, good game. So this isn't a case of me not liking it, but this statement here just rubs you the wrong way. We're going to create a problem, and, you know, the audacity that they have in coming out and saying, you know, as a golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. But we are going to deliberately make that experience worse for you, and then at certain intervals in the game, let you know as an incentive that you can actually enjoy the game more by reverting the game back to its original way. Because that's all they're saying here, right? They're basically telling you, you can have this booster, and some of these boosters may even be like timed, right? They might not even be indefinite boosters. But it's like, hey, for like 3 hours, you can play the game the way it was intended and have real fun by gaining that XP, grinding to your heart's content. How is that giving the consumer more fun? That becomes a chore, that becomes a job, that becomes a focus-driven, I've just spent this much money, I have to do this. Nothing else matters, because if I don't utilize that 3 hours, I've just wasted my money. Now, I'm not sure if it is, you know, time limited or if it's an indefinite buff increase. I'm just using that as an example because I'm pretty sure I've seen in cases where these boosters are limited time only with Ubisoft, not specifically with Shadows, but other games in the past. So this statement just feels wrong, but I'm getting people coming out and telling me that this is okay. You shouldn't be shilling for this sort of behavior. You should be calling this sort of behavior out. Now, like I said, if you want that skin, pay for it. Got zero problem with that. You want that mount? As long as it's not a pay-to-win mount and it's just a skin change, go for it. Do you know what? Even if it is a pay-to-win mount, at this point, I don't care. Right? It's not like it's going to change the game. You might ride 10% faster. I can't imagine it being any more than that. Right? But, you know, that is blurring the lines of what is acceptable. But in this situation here, when they turn around and say microtransactions help, you know, I get the whole, you know, changing your avatar, the way your character looks. I'm all with that, right? Because times have changed, games are hard, they need additional funding in order to be able to break even or even make a profit with these AAA games. But when you turn around and deliberately, fundamentally make a game experience worse, and this is deliberate, this isn't something that's, you know, part of the game, because these values that they have for the XP levels, they can be manually changed in the database, right? It will take somewhere in the region of 20 minutes max for someone to go in and manually change all those 100 level requirements. Max. Or they could apply a formula that will space it out much easier, and that would take less than 2 minutes. right? That's how quick that they can fix this problem without you having to buy a booster to, you know, get your XP. But if you are going to defend this sort of behavior, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. You cannot defend this. There is no world where you can turn around and tell me that a company creates a problem and then fixes it by financially charging you more money, and you are okay with that. How about we go back to the way it was, where they didn't need to break the system to make you pay for it, and then get back to the way the system was originally intended? Because that's what you're doing. They gave you the original product, they modified it so it's a worse product, and they're telling you, pay me money and you can have it back at the default setting. I don't know, folks. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This one blew my mind, that people would actually defend this. This is crazy, right? This one actually blew my mind. Like I said, I like Ubisoft games. I've been a staunch defender of Shadows because I think things are way overblown in terms of the way the media covered it and the way the community covered it. I think it's a good game, and I have nothing against it. I think graphically it looks great. I've enjoyed the story so far. I've enjoyed the gameplay so far. And it's giving you two options of way of play as well, which is absolutely cool. Other games in the Ubisoft saga, same thing. It's just way too bloated. Remove 50% of the bloat. In fact, I would go as far as saying that that's probably not enough. I'd say remove like 80% of the bloat, and then you're probably at somewhere where it's acceptable, right? That's saying something, isn't it? But anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below regarding this, because I think this is absolutely bonkers that a company can come out barefaced and turn around and say, by us creating a problem and making you pay more money for the product you've already paid for to bring it back to its original state, we believe you're going to have more fun. Well, of course, because the game is in its intended place, but why is it even, like, why would you even go down that route? Why would you break it before it's, why would you create the problem only to charge? This is scummy tactics, Ubisoft. This is scummy business, and it needs to be called out by more people. But you don't see anyone really talking about this, do you? Anyway, that's my thoughts. Love to hear your comments. Peace out, folks. See you tonight over at Twitch. Remain legend.